I'm Jeremy Sinclair, and I'm a Windows Insider MVP. And I'm going to speak about bringing your apps to Windows 11 on ARM. Um, the quick agenda, I'm going to speak about why it's important to build for Windows on ARM, a little bit about Windows 11, the Windows App SDK, and a demo. Okay, why should you build for Windows on ARM? So it's the only Windows platform that can run x86, x64, ARM32, and ARM64 applications. That by itself makes it quite ultimate in my opinion. Um, right now is the perfect time to build for Windows on ARM, especially with .NET 6 coming out. That brings the complete ARM64 support, and I mean more in terms of even developing with .NET. So the SDK has works with console apps, desktop apps like WPF, WinForms, and even WinUI 3. Um, with .NET 6, it allows for an ARM64 and x64 coexistence. So what this means is that you can target both, ARM64 and x64 with the .NET 6 SDK without issue. And there's a lot of native performance improvements, and this is mainly around Windows 11. Now, Windows 11, this beautiful OS just debuted around what, June ish, and it was available to insiders for a while, and recently became available for the general public. Uh, Windows 11 brings a lot of improvements, especially to ARM. A lot of the things that were in the insider dev branch for well over a year, especially with the x64 emulation, that's all cooked in. Well, let me go back. All the stuff that were in the insider dev branch back on Windows 10 for the past year, that's merged into Windows 11 and is available to everyone. And with the Windows 11 UI come some beautiful Windows 11 controls. So the entire UI was updated with a more sleek feel, and it just kind of feels more visually appealing. And what I'm going to talk about is a little about the Windows App SDK. This was something that was previously known as Project Reunion. It's gone through a lot of work. In before it was WinUI 3 was kind of a separate deal, and it's kind of adding on to the next step from WinUI 2 that was mainly UWP focused. What this does with Windows App SDK is we get a decoupled Windows API implementation from the OS. So I don't even have to really download the Windows 11 SDKs and have them on completely on my machine for me to target it. And all of this is provided by NuGet packages. And a lot of the things that kind of build this, it's all C# WinRT. So you have WinRT type projections, which is actually really awesome. And you get unified access to APIs with Windows 11 and Windows 10 because if I believe so, it goes down to Windows 10 1809. So I can build and target this, and it can run on Windows 10. And the best part is it supports .NET 5 and beyond. So prior to, I guess, the announcement yesterday, everyone just simply targeted .NET 5. That's in the template, but you can run with .NET 6. So just I think last week, a few weeks ago, we were introduced to Windows App SDK Preview 3. Uh, this brought the Windows 11 style controls into the mix. And for now, there was a bug with ARM64, but you could actually run unpackaged apps on x64 and x86 with this. Now, some little bit of information about the differences between what you're going to get in the different versions of the WinApp SDK for packaged apps. Uh, there's a lot that is still in flux. When you're targeting and migrating apps over, you need to make sure that you're targeting the right version of this, because if you can see here, there's a lot of things that aren't supported, especially um, with version 0.8. There are things that are experimental. In 0.8, at this moment in time, is the stable release. So that would be the one that could actually be deployed into the store. Um, until 1.0 comes out, the 1.0 preview 3, when you create these apps, you can't put them into the store. They're not supported. So it's only, you can only side load or run locally. But as I said, there's a lot that is still in progress with this SDK. So a lot of the things that you're used to from UWP may not map over. And even the same for the unpackaged apps. Even though, as you see, it's supported for 1.0, in a future release, we'll get the ARM64 support. But even in the stable release right now, you can't even use WinUI 3 with unpackaged apps. And the same with like XAML Islands, which that may be a stopper for many who previously have WPF and WinForms apps, and we're adding those controls in, adding the XAML islands to get a little bit of those native controls. If you're currently in that state, I'd probably stick to where you are right now. But like I said, there's a lot of work being done, and honestly, I'd say if you're starting out with a brand new application, I would go with WinApp SDK. Now, this is not to say though, because I planned on not saying anything about this, but UWP, I know there's a lot of UWP developers, and they're kind of worried about, okay, what's happening with us. And a lot of guidance is if you have something in UWP, keep it there. WinUI 2 is, it's still being worked on and it's still supported. I think it's from my standpoint. I think there's a maintenance mode to it. So I mean, it's still being worked on. There's a lot of components even in Windows that are still that are actually running with WinUI WinUI 2. So I wouldn't, don't get discouraged and say, oh, this is not it. It's gone. Not it's There's a lot of components that are still cooked into the system right now. But the reason I did spoke about this is because this is brand new. And with that said, I'm going to demo building and debugging a WinUp SDK app. Okay, something interesting with this app that I'm going to demo is I actually made this app last year for UnoConf. And I've been going back and forth on, okay, what's the best thing to kind of to show to show how this works. And so what I did was I did basically a copy paste with all of my project files over into a Windows App SDK project, file new. And just for proof, this is actually running Windows App SDK 1.0 Preview 3. I did run into some issues with this, and many of those issues were, um, like everyone said, like I said before, there's some things that don't directly map over from UWP, but nevertheless, I get things working. Um, so one of the things I will go into is, like I said, there's still some things that have to be done. Uh, for instance, if you use any converters right now, you're going to want to create a separate page from the window and then put your logic in there because I guess for some reason the converter isn't binding properly back. It's looking for a UI element, but you can't bind that to a window. So that was the first thing I had to change. Um, and to give a little background on this app, first of all, this application, it's a simple application where I'm looking at Azure DevOps and using the Azure DevOps REST API to query data, um, more or less entering a number for a work item and basically using this as a stopwatch. And it was based off of a PowerShell script I created. But I think I've done enough talking right now. So why don't I just show this debugging on deploying ARM64? Okay, so I have my Surface Pro X right here. And I will say I actually ran into issues like right before this because my Mac did not like remote desktop randomly and it froze. So, let's see, as this is building and deploying, setting up the remote debugger is fairly easy. The remote debugger can meet for ARM64 can be installed separately, standalone, or if you're action packed and want to install Visual Studio 2022 by yourself on your ARM device, you can just do that. And it's right within the Visual Studio 2022 folder. Oh, there we go. So our build is running and it's copying all the files over to the layout. And I'll say, well, actually, there's stuff I'm going to speak about after I get this running. All right. There we go. So this is running right on my Surface Pro X. So these are the brand new controls. And what this actually does is I can press this play. And I just did something really simple because this is a quite simple app. Now all this is doing is it's reading data from my Azure DevOps REST API, and at the moment it's just looking at the current date that I press the button to start, and it's just capturing how long you know I'm working on this item. And to prove that it's actually doing debugging, I can go into this view model, which I'm just using a dispatcher timer. Put a breakpoint. There we are. So this is actually debugging over to my Pro X. Now here is the cool thing. If I can show this. All right, so I've been playing around with this for some time, and it's literally I'm just taking the ticks that I get in between the elapsed time, and it's writing back after I press the button, which should be a stop button, but I messed up one of the bindings in the converter. So if I press this button, that will write back the elapsed time to the work item Azure DevOps. And I should, yep, there we go. Yeah, I definitely have my calculations wrong, but this just worked perfectly. Now, a little about this code. Stop that. Um, all I really did in terms of generating this SDK is, generating these REST APIs is I actually just used Swagger and used what was it NSwag to convert it into a client, and so I could all of this was generated, and I all I did was copy and paste this over into a brand new WinUI 3 based WinApp SDK, and that's it. Because this app isn't doing anything super well, isn't doing anything super in terms of calculations. There was no issue with it. Yeah, but yeah, simple app. And if I wanted to, which I'm going to show real quick, I should be able to show you this running in directly from my Pro X. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of developer experience here. So because VS 2022 is x64 and we have x64 emulation on Windows 11, you can do this. Now, I wouldn't expect it to be super blazing fast because there's still an emulation layer going on here, and you notice it's still taking some time to load. And it's mainly because before I had this up and changed some code. There we go. Naturally, it doesn't want to load right. Oh. This might actually be one of the things I blew up. Well, let's troubleshoot live. See if I can get this fixed in the next 2 minutes. Otherwise, I will just move on to the rest of my slides. Yeah, I think this is it. Actually, no, I think. And this is mainly because I tweaked some things. Ooh, yeah, I blew that up. Let's try this. Yeah, that's what I get for playing around with environment variables. But I promise you this works. Okay, there we go. So yeah, what happened is in between the .NET 6 previews, I played around with trying to make x64 and ARM64 work together before there was an actual plan for this. And so I had some leftover environment variables that just got caught up in the wildness. All right. So let's try to kick this off. . Oh, okay. I see. I ran into. I just noticed something, and this was. I'm glad I have another machine for this, but I just realized that my clock is wrong. So actually, I'm on the Insider Dev channel build, and this is the first time I actually ran into this issue. So my clock is saying it's 5:50 my time, but it's actually 5:56 my time. Let me see if that is. Yeah, that is right. All right, let's see. I think it's. Hurry up and load, please. It's just challenges. All right, I'm just going to assume this isn't going to load properly, so I will go back to my slides. All right, so current challenges. The lack of a native IDE. As you've seen, just me running, trying to load that project with VS 2022. It's a lot faster than it was trying to load with VS 2019, with it being x86. Like, this is like light years, but there's still some slowness. Um, and testing, if you're creating Windows on ARM applications and you want to test them out, for now, you need your own ARM device. And the reason why I say for now is a few weeks back, or maybe that was last week, um, uh, Kevin Gallo hinted at there being work done. I don't know when this work is being done, uh, but they were kind of exploring the idea of running ARM VMs in Azure. And I think that, like, once that work is complete, that's going to solve a lot of issues. Now, don't quote me on saying like, "Oh, it's." I don't know when it's coming, but it was something that was hinted at, and I kind of latched onto that. Another challenge is the speed and cross compiling. If you're on, x64, you have to cross compile to ARM64, and especially if there's uh, a lot of native code involved, it's going to take some time. Now, I have my own call to action. Please file issues for any bugs you encounter, especially to Windows App SDK team and even Windows Insiders team. If you're running insider builds, engage in different communities. I will say I've been lurking around the UWP community Discord, and there's a lot of brilliant people on there, and definitely get involved. Import your applications if you can. A lot of things are easy. Some things may be difficult, but give it a shot. Some resources: WinApp SDK, GitHub, the docs. Learn WinUI 3.0 from Alvin Ashcraft. Service Pro X Reddit community, which I moderate, and I have a GitHub, which this will be uploaded to later. And that is all for me. Let's see if it actually loaded. Oh, wait. It did. It loaded. All right, so now we determine that like we can actually debug. So, yay.
Oh, we were muted. I was going to say, unfortunately, I was sharing our camera, so no one got to see it. But you can trust in us that we did see it on the StreamYard, that it did show up. So we don't have any questions. We have a lot of tweets about beans, but I figured you can handle that on Twitter.
Yeah, I expect that there's a lot there's a lot of brilliant developers out there using created UWP apps and are porting
Yep.
over, and I kind of just wanted to show like, hey, you can do this.
Right.
And what I definitely want to see is, because I know a lot of people are like, okay, what is this demo? And
Right.
I want to see them come back with something that just something so brilliant, just to bring light to it.
Yep. Perfect. No, I think that was the point. It was a great
Yeah.
great session.
All right,
Perfect.
thank you.
Great job.
Yep.